Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. Congress racing to get things done before Christmas, including the massive defense bill. So why did Republicans and some liberal Democrats block it from advancing Monday? New COVID rules for New Yorkers and LA residents at indoor businesses. And the deadline for federal workers to get the shot is pushed back until after the holidays. Amazon ordered to redo its Alabama union vote. Workers voted against a union in April, but an industry organization says the election wasn't fair. Video released showing investigators' 11-hour interview with Andrew Cuomo. The former New York governor resigned in August after allegations of sexual harassment. A jury is selected in New York City for the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. 12 jurors and 6 alternates will hear Maxwell's case. Maxwell has pleaded not guilty. Congress is racing to avert a government shutdown this week. It also has a lot of other items on its to-do list before Christmas. NTD's Jessica Beatty explains.
Congress is sprinting to deliver some must-have packages by Christmas. It must pass a stopgap bill this week to avert a government shutdown this weekend. The government's only funded through Friday night. Another item is the debt ceiling. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen recently telling lawmakers they should try to raise it by December 15th. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer trying to get these out of the way so they can move on to President Biden's spending agenda and pass that by Christmas.
Once this necessary work is completed with the parliamentarian, I will bring the President's Build Back Better legislation to the floor so we can pass it as soon as possible.
Another item is the annual defense bill. It sets policy for the Pentagon for certain things like soldier salaries and how many rifles and ships it should buy. Senate Republicans and some liberal Democrats blocked it from advancing Monday night. Both sides trading barbs before the vote.
We hope that Republican dysfunction will not be a roadblock to passing this bill and taking care of our troops and their families.
Republicans saying Schumer didn't give enough floor debate and votes on their amendments before trying to move toward final passage of the bill.
Madam President, nothing less than the safety of the American people is at stake. This is more important than political timetables.
The vote fell short of the 60 votes needed to advance it, with a handful of liberal Democrats and Bernie Sanders also voting no because of the hefty $770 billion price tag. They argue the military budget shouldn't be so large when key issues like healthcare and education are not being adequately addressed. Republican Senator John Cornyn says he expects the blocked vote to lead to a fresh agreement between the parties. He thinks they could finish it this week if there's more time for amendments. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
There's still a lot we don't know about the Omicron variant. How transmissible is it? What about the severity? How will our vaccines hold up against it? And here's another question. How could it affect the health of our economy? That's what the head of the Federal Reserve is scheduled to talk about today. Let's take a look at what we can expect from his testimony.
All eyes on Omicron.
This variant is a cause for concern, not a cause for panic.
But when the World Health Organization flagged it as a variant of concern on Friday, Wall Street spun out, selling off stocks and oil, though it regained much of its lost ground Monday. Still, Omicron comes at a precarious time, a holiday shopping season already burdened by supply chain backup. The president hosted the CEOs of major retailers at the White House Monday to talk about tackling the gridlock.
I know how incredibly busy you all are, and heck of a job you're doing to make sure people aren't disappointed.
But economists worry disappointment could be the name of the game if Omicron prolongs the pandemic. The head of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, will testify on Capitol Hill this morning, laying out 3 major threats Omicron could pose to the U.S. economy, including the possibility prices could keep rising, job growth could take a hit, and the supply chain crisis could get worse. Writing in prepared remarks, quote, greater concerns about the virus could reduce people's willingness to work in person, which would slow progress in the labor market and intensify supply chain disruptions. But health experts say it could be a couple weeks before we know more about this variant. And no clear-cut answers on Omicron means no clear-cut answers on how it could impact our economy.
Energy costs are rising in Pennsylvania. The state's Public Utility Commission says it could increase by up to 50% starting tomorrow, and the commission's chairman says people should start thinking of ways to save money as temperatures drop. We know it will be a chilly winter. The U.S. Energy Information Agency already warned this season could see the largest increase in heating costs in nearly 15 years. Last week, Senator Elizabeth Warren wrote a letter to the chief executives from 11 natural gas producers. She questioned why they're exporting record amounts of heating fuels amid rising energy prices. She called for answers by December 7th. The Democratic senator was one of 11 who urged President Biden to block exports of crude oil produced in the United States. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo visited Detroit yesterday. She's pressing Congress to approve $52 billion to expand U.S. semiconductor manufacturing.
Secretary Raimondo tweeted on Monday, "Semiconductors play a vital role in our economic and national security. The $52 billion investment in domestic semiconductor production is a vital step forward." At a roundtable in Detroit, Raimondo meets with Michigan politicians and executives from General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler's parent company, Stellantis. There's an ongoing chip shortage due to the supply chain disruptions caused by the pandemic. Global automakers have been forced to cut production as a result. According to Auto Forecast Solutions, Michigan automakers made 280,000 fewer cars this year due to chip shortages. The problem will intensify with widespread adoption of electric cars, which require more chips per vehicle. To strengthen the supply chain and boost competition with China, the U.S. Senate passed a bill in June awarding $52 billion for semiconductor manufacturing, but it has not yet cleared the House.
And we need Congress, the House, to pass the CHIPS Act, or USICA, as quickly as possible so that we can get to the business of making more chips in America.
House and Senate leaders said recently that they will negotiate to seek final agreement on the bill. Meanwhile, Samsung Electronics announced last week that it will build a new $17 billion plant in Taylor, Texas, to make advanced chips. The White House has welcomed the move.
Stealing from the supply chain. Thieves are targeting shipping containers loaded onto Union Pacific trains in the Los Angeles region, and they leave open boxes strewn around the tracks. Industry organization CargoNet says cargo theft reports along the West Coast increased 42% year over year. They say the data is not a surprise as California continues to struggle with thefts of high-end computer electronic shipments. The organization says cargo thieves continue to prefer computer electronic shipments, and almost 70% of these thefts in the third quarter of 2021 were in California. Officials say thieves are attracted to the lingering containers on trains. Travelers crime and theft specialist Scott Cornell said the more the supply chain is backed up, the more cargo there will be sitting around, and that creates a bigger opportunity for thieves. The stage is set for another high-profile organizing battle at the world's largest online retailer. A regional director for the U.S. National Labor Relations Board is calling for a rerun of a union election at an Amazon facility in Alabama.
Workers at the warehouse in Alabama rejected forming a union by a more than 2-to-1 margin in April after an organizing drive that garnered support from U.S. lawmakers and President Joe Biden. In August, an NLRB hearing officer said the company's conduct around the previous vote had interfered with the election. In a statement, Stuart Applebaum, president of the Retail, Wholesale, and Department Store Union, said, quote, "Today's decision confirms what we were saying all along, that Amazon's intimidation and interference prevented workers from having a fair say in whether they wanted a union in their workplace." In Monday's decision, the NLRB regional director said that Amazon engaged in objectionable conduct that warrants setting aside the election. The decision pointed to moves by the company encouraging staff to vote via a mailbox it had the Postal Service install at its warehouse, surrounding the mailbox with its campaign slogan and locating it where workers may have thought Amazon was monitoring them. The decision for a redo adds pressure on Amazon, which has recently faced union campaigns in New York and Canada. Worker groups view organizing the company as a landmark goal that would invigorate the U.S. labor movement. An Amazon spokesperson said that the company's employees overwhelmingly voted against joining the union this year, adding that it is disappointing that the NLRB has now decided those votes shouldn't count.
Residents of New York City will now be required to wear masks at all times indoors. This comes as Los Angeles starts enforcing its vaccine mandate for anyone who wishes to go inside of many establishments in the city. New York City's new mask advisory comes as the city requires vaccines for childcare workers. This follows the Omicron variant being detected earlier this month. New Yorkers will be required to wear a mask even if they're vaccinated. That's according to the mayor and health commissioner, who said they do expect Omicron to show up this week, but they have not found any confirmed cases in the city yet. LA officials started enforcing one of the nation's strictest vaccine mandates. Now residents in the city will need to show proof of shots to enter bars, restaurants, theaters, nail salons, gyms, yoga studios, and other establishments. Some say the rule makes them feel safer, and others voice concerns.
I think it's kind of silly, but myself, and I think it hurts the business owners. I feel like, they're trying to just make a living and, do what they do in the service industry. And now they're having to police vaccination cards, and then they have to deal with people who don't want to show it.
Some federal employees will have until after the holidays to be vaccinated. That's according to a memo sent to some federal agencies by the Office of Management and Budget. The OMB said managers can wait to fire or suspend their employees until after the holidays. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki confirmed the memo on Monday. The Department of Defense has rejected Oklahoma's request to exempt its National Guard from the military's vaccine mandate. Republican Governor Kevin Stitt said the mandate asks Guardsmen to sacrifice their personal beliefs to keep their jobs. The Pentagon press secretary said Oklahoma is the only state that has expressed this concern.
By not taking the vaccine, therefore not meeting a mandatory readiness requirement, an individual in the National Guard could put at jeopardy their ability to continue to serve in the National Guard.
Stitt said that about 10% of Oklahoma's force could be fired if the mandate remains in effect. Former Department of Justice official Jeffrey Clark may be facing charges. The House Select Committee probing the January 6th breach of the U.S. Capitol is scheduled to meet tomorrow. That's when they'll vote on a report calling for Clark to be held on criminal contempt of Congress. If the committee votes in favor, Clark would be the second person to possibly face charges for not providing information under subpoena. Clark was a supporter of President Trump's accusation that the 2020 election was fraudulent. Kenneth Klukowski, who was Clark's former senior counsel, has also been subpoenaed. Video was released Monday of Investigator's 11-hour July interview with former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. In the footage, he emphatically denies allegations he sexually harassed women. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
During the interrogation, Cuomo insisted he was careful in how he behaved around women. He also bristled at a groping allegation by an aide, Brittany Camissa. She said Cuomo had pulled her toward him and grabbed her breast in the governor's mansion. Cuomo, 63, vehemently denied the accusation.
I would have to lose my mind to do such a thing. It would be an act of insanity to touch a woman's breast and make myself vulnerable to a woman for such an accusation.
Cuomo resigned in August. The Albany County Sheriff's Office filed a criminal complaint against Cuomo over Camisso's groping allegation late last month.
I have been in every public office, state, federal. Numerous people have tried to set me up. I'm always wary of people. I have phenomenal precautions. It would be an act of insanity.
Cuomo's brother, Chris Cuomo, has also faced scrutiny over the investigation. The CNN anchor has told investigators probing that he reached out to sources after his brother was accused. Newly released materials from the investigation also show he pleaded to help his brother's team prepare responses to the allegations. Chris Cuomo has defended his actions and has not been reprimanded by CNN. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Democratic Congressman Tom Suozzi of New York is running to be his state's next governor. Suozzi made the announcement yesterday. In his Zoom announcement, Suozzi cited the need for leadership, saying the far left and far right have gone too far. His competitors in the Democratic primary so far include current Governor Kathy Hochul, New York Attorney General Letitia James, and New York City Public Advocate Jumaane Williams. Suozzi is the latest in a string of House Democrats who are either retiring or seeking higher office ahead of the 2022 midterm elections. That could become a problem for Democrats who currently control the House. Republicans are working to retake the majority next year. A jury was selected Monday in New York City for the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, 2 years after Jeffrey Epstein's suicide while awaiting trial. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the latest.
12 jurors and 6 alternates will hear Maxwell's case. They were picked from a pool of 40 to 60 potential jurors. Maxwell is accused of acting as Epstein's chief enabler, recruiting and grooming young girls for him to abuse.
Juries are not going to like her. She's an affluent, sort of, arrogant, silver spoon, grew up in fancy ways. I don't think she's relatable to a jury. I don't think a jury is going to find her to be moving.
The charges against her stem from the allegations from 4 women who say she and Epstein victimized them as teens from 1994 to 2004. Prosecutors say there's evidence Maxwell knew that the victims were below the age of consent. They also allege that she arranged travel for some between Epstein's homes, including his estate in Palm Beach, Florida, his Manhattan townhouse, and at other residences in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and London.
I don't necessarily see her calling herself a victim of Epstein, because then she would have to admit that something went horribly wrong and she potentially participated in it.
Epstein killed himself at a Manhattan federal lockup in August 2019, a month after his arrest on sex trafficking charges. Authorities charged Maxwell in July 2020, arresting her after tracking her to a $1 million New Hampshire estate.
We are not in the courtroom this week determining whether or not these victims were victims of sex crimes at the hands of Mr. Epstein. That's not what this trial is about. This trial is about Ms. Maxwell's alleged activity to enable Mr. Epstein to abuse these little kids.
Maxwell has pleaded not guilty and vehemently denies wrongdoing. Maxwell holds U.S., British, and French citizenships and was repeatedly denied bail in the run-up to her trial. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Prosecutors in Pennsylvania are asking the U.S. Supreme Court to review Bill Cosby's overturned sexual assault conviction. In April 2018, the former actor and comedian was found guilty of aggravated indecent assault. In June, Cosby was released from prison after the state Supreme Court overturned his conviction. The panel of judges said, in their opinion, a former Montgomery County District Attorney's decision not to prosecute Cosby in 2005 in return for his deposition in a civil case was ultimately used against him at trial. On Monday, state prosecutors announced they're appealing the court ruling, arguing that a statement from a previous district attorney, which stated they wouldn't file charges, does not mean that charges would never be filed. In response, Cosby spokesman Andrew Wyatt lambasted the appeal, calling it a pathetic last-ditch effort that will not prevail. The date is set for the U.S. Justice Department's lawsuit against American Airlines and JetBlue Airways. The judge hearing the case says the trial will begin on September 26 next year. The government is asking Judge Leo Sorokin to order the airlines to end their Northeast Alliance partnership. The alliance allows American and JetBlue to sell each other's flights in their New York area and Boston networks and link frequent flyer programs. This helps the airlines compete with United and Delta Airlines in the Northeast. But the lawsuit says the agreement will lead to higher fares in northeastern airports. American and JetBlue deny wrongdoing and are asking Sorokin to dismiss the lawsuit. A new caravan has formed in southern Mexico. The 1,000-strong group is the latest in a series headed to the United States, and officials are grappling with the influx of immigration claims. Here's more.
A new U.S.-bound caravan arrived in the southern Mexican city of Chiapas. On board were some 2,000 illegal immigrants and asylum seekers. Departing overnight last Sunday, they traveled 15 miles from the city of Tapachula. There, the harsh conditions are drawing complaints.
We left the Olympic Stadium because there were not enough buses to take us to the capital, so we decided to stop suffering and sleep there. Also, we could no longer continue paying for our house, and that is why we want to go north to get a job.
At a local stadium, thousands have been lining up for hours. Inside is a processing center set up by immigration officials. Under Mexican rules, migrants have to wait for formalities after filing their asylum request. The process can take several months and often causes delays for those waiting to obtain legal status in the country. Last week, the Mexican government transported hundreds from Tapachula to other Mexican states. That's an effort to stop the formation of more caravans. Tens of thousands still remain in the city.
Just ahead, the New York Mets are negotiating a record deal to bring in 8-time All-Star pitcher Max Scherzer. The move would award him the highest annual salary in baseball history. Wags and Walks Animal Shelter in Los Angeles uses astrology on its dogs in hopes of matching them with a compatible human, saving them from high-kill shelters. All that and more here on NTD News.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. My employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you for all of your support. At MyPillow, we not only have pillows, but we have hundreds of products, including my new slippers, bathrobes, sleepwear, and my new beds. We're offering the best gifts ever for the best prices ever. For example, we have this exclusive offer on the standard size MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now only $19.98 with your promo code. We also have the queen size MyPillows, regularly $79.98, now only $24.98 with your promo code. And we have the king size, regularly $89.98, now only $29.98 with your promo code. So go to mypillow.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive this exclusive offer.
Amtrak says a long-awaited passenger rail route connecting New York City to Scranton, Pennsylvania is on track to be completed in 3 to 5 years now that they have the money to do it. Amtrak will use money from the recently passed federal infrastructure bill. The bill gives Amtrak $66 billion. The chairman of the Pennsylvania Northeast Regional Railroad Authority says it's the largest investment in Amtrak since its creation in 1971. The Scranton line would have 8 stops and make 3 round trips a day. It would start at Penn Station in New York City and make stops in New Jersey before reaching Pennsylvania. The line had once run from Hoboken, New Jersey through Scranton and points west. Some in Northeast Pennsylvania doubted the train connection to New York would ever happen, but the Rail Authority kept preparations on track. Bad news for food delivery fans. Some restaurants may not be making deliveries anymore. As the dining-in option gets more popular again, some owners want to prioritize customers who are looking to stay rather than to go. NTD's Phil Zoe has the story.
Craving your favorite meal but don't want to go out? It's no longer a guarantee all restaurants will deliver right to your door whenever you want. Some are shutting down online orders, especially from high-fee apps like Uber Eats and DoorDash. The parent company of Applebee's and IHOP says it's because they have to prioritize customers who are physically in their restaurants. It says sometimes delivery service is shut down at Applebee's on busy nights and at IHOP on weekend mornings. Olive Garden says it's scaling back its delivery service on weekends, limiting it to only 4 orders every 15 minutes when there is usually more demand than that. A recent survey of over 1,000 Americans shows 15% noticed delivery was no longer available at full-service restaurants during peak hours. But overall, delivery and carry-out business is going strong. 44% of orders at sit-down restaurants are made to go, compared to just 20% before the pandemic. DoorDash and Uber Eats reported growing sales last quarter, even though most dining rooms are open again. Phil Zhou, NTD News.
Media reports say the Mets are finalizing a deal to bring 8-time All-Star pitcher Max Scherzer to New York in a 3-year, $130 million contract. This will give him the highest average annual salary in Major League Baseball history.
Scherzer's deal ends rampant speculation over where the highly sought-after 37-year-old would land, with numerous MLB franchises rumored to have courted the 3-time Cy Young Award winner. The right-handed ace picked up a World Series title with the Washington Nationals in 2019 and has pitched 2 no-hitters in his career. He's hoping for similar success with the Mets, who started on a high last season but suffered a meltdown with a losing record in the second half, frustrating fans who had hoped for a fresh start with new owner, billionaire Steve Cohen, taking over a year ago. Cohen, a hedge fund manager, went on a shopping spree late last week, signing 3 other free agents, including 2-time Gold Glove Award-winning outfielder Starling Marte. But Scherzer is the feather in his cap, providing a 1-2 punch at the top of the pitching rotation with fellow ace Jacob deGrom that Mets fans hope will propel the team to its first World Series title since 1986. The Mets did not immediately respond to a request for comment, but posted #LGM to their Twitter account, an acronym that stands for Let's Go Mets.
Scientists detected a rare species of whale southeast of New York City, and the federal government is using a voluntary protected zone to try to keep them safe. There are fewer than 350 North Atlantic right whales left, and scientists just spotted one southeast of New York. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration has established a protected zone south of Long Island and east of New Jersey. It will be in effect until Sunday. They're telling mariners to move through the area slowly or avoid it altogether. The whales are vulnerable to colliding with ships or getting entangled in fishing gear. Other zones dedicated to protecting the whales are off the coasts of Maryland and Massachusetts. An animal shelter in Los Angeles is using astrology for its dogs in hopes of matching them with a compatible human. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Wags and Walks Adoption Center has created wagsandwalksfoster.com. The website shows dogs and their star signs to help get better foster matches.
This is Ruby.
Workers at Wags and Walks keep records of personality traits and likes and dislikes of each dog in their care. When matching a dog to a foster parent, there are some astrology rules to keep in mind.
We go off of their personalities. It's really important to us to learn about our dogs so that we can match them really well with their potential adopters and fosters. So we get to know our dogs, and although they are rescue dogs, so for the most part we don't know their actual birthdays, we assign them a star sign based off of their personalities as we get to know them.
According to the ASPCA, 390,000 dogs in shelters in the United States are euthanized every year. Wags and Walks is one of a number of adoption agencies that take dogs from high-kill shelters. They have 30 kennels on site, but have up to 175 dogs in their care.
Sometimes opposites attract. You know, you could have a Libra with an Aries. Sometimes you want a dog that's similar in your personality. Like I mentioned, if you're like on your computer all day and you want a dog who's just gonna chill out with you, you know, that might be best for you. And then there are some that don't work well together.
The majority of their dogs are placed in foster homes. Deanna Isabel is one of the fosterers for Wags and Walks. It's her job to help the dogs get comfortable with people to make them more adoptable.
It's a really incredible experience. Not only are you helping save a life, because the more dogs in foster, the more space they have to rescue more dogs from the shelter. And it's really fulfilling to know that you are, it's really fulfilling to know that you are kind of getting this dog ready to go to its forever home.
Wags and Walks makes the fostering experience almost cost-free, providing food, bed, medicine, and toys for the dogs, and also helps with training and medical issues. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
A pro basketball player is celebrating his freedom by adopting the very word. Turkish native Enes Kanter, a center with the Boston Celtics, became a U.S. citizen yesterday. He's also legally changing his name to Enes Kanter Freedom. The 11-year NBA vet is a vocal critic for human rights issues and says his name change reflects that commitment.
That's the one thing my whole life I try to fight for. You know, when I came to America, to me, it was so amazing because, you know, here there is freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, and freedom of press, which I didn't have any of those with Turkey. You know, that's why I wanted to, and freedom also is the greatest thing that a human being can have. So that's why I wanted to make that word a part of me and carry it wherever I go.
For the past few months, Kanter has blasted the Chinese Communist Party for its treatment of Hong Kong, Taiwan, Tibet, and the Uyghur ethnic group. The Chinese Communist Party may have dealt another blow to the global supply chain. It's preventing outsiders from accessing information about cargo ships in Chinese waters.
Pandemic delays triggered much of the current supply chain crisis. Now global shipping issues may be getting worse. According to reports, nearly 90% fewer vessels operating in Chinese waters are sending out signals to shipping data companies. The substantial drop comes in just the last few weeks. Beijing blames the change on national security concerns, but that data is critical for shipping companies. They use it to track ships fitted with an automatic identification system, or AIS. That way, the companies know when each ship is anchored, unloaded, or departed. Details that help improve port efficiency. China accounts for 6 of the 10 busiest container ports in the world. Trade analyst for Vessels Value, Charlotte Cook, shed some light on the situation. She says some AIS transponders were removed along Chinese coastlines earlier this month, at the instruction of Chinese national security authorities, adding that only those installed by so-called qualified parties still remain. Some analysts suspect the culprit is China's new Personal Information Protection Law, which took effect November 1st. The law requires companies to obtain the Chinese regime's approval before they take personal information out of China. It seems to reflect Beijing's fear that its data will fall into the control of foreign governments. Chinese state-run media have reported that since last year, China's national security agencies have found that foreign companies had built more than 700 AIS transponders along China's coastline. Also, according to Chinese media, foreign agencies had been partially using these transponders to collect China's data. The reports accused the foreign agencies of interfering with China's law enforcement activities and seriously endangering the country's economic and sovereign security. But a U.S.-based China affairs analyst offers another perspective. He says it has more to do with the Chinese regime's political security than with its national security.
They are afraid that economic activities will be analyzed by others, but what are the consequences of those analyses? Doesn't it just reveal that China's GDP is actually low and that it's not as high as they say? Besides, they're secretly shipping certain things to Iran and North Korea, and they don't want to be caught.
With Christmas approaching, a loss of tracking data from China could spell major issues for the global shipping industry.
The CCP would be happy to see that the U.S. supply chain is messed up and inflation is high. If its inflation is high, the U.S. will be more willing to cooperate with the CCP.
Some call it a double-edged sword. The tighter the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, controls data, the more it will draw foreign suspicions. But at the same time, the country is becoming more and more isolated from the rest of the world as it adopts increasingly strict policies in the name of protecting its national security.
Coming up, a NATO foreign ministers meeting is underway. It's centered around Russia's military buildup on the Ukraine border. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is warning of serious consequences if Russia uses force against Ukraine. And help is on the way for Cuba amid blackouts via floating energy power ships from a Turkish company. The vessels will help the country keep its energy grid operational. Find out more in just a minute here on NTD News.
the worst genocide in human history, also destroyed the lives of thousands of Jewish survivors still suffering today.
God calls on people who believe in him to act on his word. Comfort ye, comfort my people.
Especially during this holiday season of Hanukkah. When I come here and I sit with Lily, I realize what she needs right now is food. These elderly Jews are weak and they're sick. They're living on $2 a day. This now is how God's children are living. Take this time to send a survival food box to these forgotten Jews.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews urgently need your gift of $25 now to help provide one survival food box with all of the essentials they critically need for their diet for 1 month. Your special holiday gift will provide everything they need to celebrate the miracle of Hanukkah.
This is the first time in over 70 years that she has anything to do with faith.
The communists came and wiped it out.
Your grandparents?
And now we're coming to her and we're saying, it's okay to have faith. It's okay to light the Hanukkah candles.
For just $25, you can help supply the essential foods they desperately need for 1 month.
For over 35 years, this trusted ministry has given Christians like me a way to tangibly bless Jewish people who are in need throughout the world.
God tells us to take care of them, to feed the hungry. And I pray Holocaust survivors will be given the basic needs that they so desperately pray for to survive.
Leaders from NATO countries are meeting in Latvia today. The two-day talks are being held over concerns about Russian troop buildup on the Ukraine border.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is meeting with other NATO officials in Latvia's capital of Riga. Speaking at a news conference, he said the U.S. is very concerned about Russian troops amassing near the Ukraine border.
Any escalatory actions by Russia would be of great concern to the United States, as they would to Latvia, and any renewed aggression would trigger serious consequences.
Back in May, the number of Russian troops on the Ukraine border reached 100,000, the largest since Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014. Moscow has dismissed claims it's intending to attack. Adding to those fears, Belarus on Monday announced joint military drills with Russia on its border with Ukraine. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg called on Russia to be more transparent and to de-escalate the situation. He warned that the West can wield economic, financial, and political sanctions against Moscow.
There will be a high price to pay for Russia if they once again use force against the independent sovereign nation, Ukraine.
Stoltenberg also noted the current migrant crisis at the Belarus border, accusing the Belarusian regime of using vulnerable people to put pressure on neighboring countries. Belarus's leader has denied the allegations.
Floating power plants from Turkey are helping to supply Cuba with electricity. Cuba has faced blackouts since June. The much-needed electricity will be fed into Cuba's energy grid off Havana's shores. There will be 4 Turkish power ships in operation. This follows a 2019 agreement between Cuba and a Turkish company. Cuba says the power ships will allow the country to maintain its power plants without interrupting supply. Turkish firm Karadeniz Holding specializes in producing and selling electricity from ships anchored off the coast. It sells power to more than 10 countries that cannot meet power demand from their onshore plants. The fleet of power ships is expected to start operating off Cuba in December 2021. And an unusual sight in Turkey, strong winds blew a washing machine down the street in the Turkish city of Düzce. Security camera footage from a nearby shop recorded the event. The washing machine on a wheeled trolley was gliding along a footpath. Shopkeepers stopped the machine shortly after it began its trip and brought it back to the store without any damage. Across Turkey, cities have experienced extreme weather conditions with strong winds knocking down parts of buildings, including concrete slabs off roofs and walls. After President Biden announced the release of U.S. oil reserves, Canada is tapping into its own strategic reserves right now, but for maple syrup. NTD's Arlene Richards has the details.
In order to deal with the worldwide shortage of maple syrup, Canada's so-called OPEC of maple syrup, Quebec Maple Syrup Producers, says it's releasing roughly 50 million pounds from its strategic reserves. That's almost half its stockpile.
The role of the reserve is really to ensure a constant supply for national and international markets, regardless of the size of the harvest.
Since weather conditions greatly affect maple syrup production, this government-supported group uses its reserves to control syrup prices and supply. It keeps maple syrup in stock during the bad harvest seasons or when demand increases. That's the case right now after a hot and short spring led to a lower yield. For the surge in demand, the Director of Corporate Communications for Quebec Maple Syrup Producers, Elena Normandin, says there are two possible reasons.
First, I think with the pandemic, people cook more, so we do not use maple syrup only on pancakes. We use it in many recipes.
Another is boiled down to the marketing strategy.
We work with the food ambassadors, and they develop recipes and they develop habits to use maple syrup in different cultures and different countries.
So what's the follow-up solution after the release?
We don't have control on Mother Nature, but we have control on the taps.
Normandin says there are 50 million taps right now in Quebec, and the group will add an extra 7 million in the next 3 years to supplement their reserves. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
If you're visiting France and have some time to spare, you could help restore a castle. For 4 years, a team of volunteers dedicated their hearts to saving a romantic fortress from falling into ruin. It's a formidable but rewarding challenge for heritage lovers. NTD's David Vives has the story.
Among the many castles of the Loire Valley in France, one has a particularly fascinating history. The Motte Chandonnier is a 13th century castle with romantic-style architecture. But this masterpiece was once at the verge of collapse. After a fire in the 1930s, it was left in ruins. Until 4 years ago, when a team of people came up with a unique idea to save the castle.
The first time I came here, I realized this was a castle like the ones in fairy tales. This was exceptional.
Bastien Goulard is a co-founder of D'Artagnans, a crowdfunding platform that promotes cultural heritage and artistic projects in France. D'Artagnans launched a campaign to restore the Motte Chandonnier. For about $60, people can purchase a part of the castle. In exchange, the buyers can come to visit the castle anytime, and they are allowed to vote at the yearly assembly on what happens to it. In just a few months, D'Artagnans raised $1.8 million. Goulard and his team then called for volunteers to help with the restoration process. Jean-Christophe Lippmann is among the first to join the adventure.
My wife wanted an exciting gift for Christmas. I found the idea of purchasing part of a castle for €50 astounding. So at Christmas, she received a piece of this castle among her gifts. Voila.
Jean-Christophe used to live in Paris. He eventually moved to this region so he can participate in the restoration work every day. He said there are many touching stories about people wanting to help.
One day, a senior couple with walkers came to help. We asked them to help carry some wood. They spent the whole afternoon walking back and forth, one branch in their hand at the time. They were so happy to help in their own way.
After the blaze, nature reclaimed the castle. Trees are emerging from the ruins, but it just adds charm. Rather than rebuilding the floors, the volunteers decided the castle would live as one with nature.
I always love to find new plants growing like this one. We don't see this specific plant in the region. I believe it was brought here by the birds.
Goulard's team built a facility next to the castle to organize events such as weddings or seminaries. The proceeds will all go toward restoration, which is a long-term commitment.
It will take dozens of years for volunteers to restore this castle. One of the first steps will be to make this area accessible to the public.
The final step would be to allow visitors and owners to tour the castle and its towers. They may even be able to organize a candlelight dinner on this Venetian terrace.
We're talking about a very long time. It will take dozens and dozens of years. I hope that people after me will continue to take care of it.
He says donations coming from the U.S. has been a big part of the funding. 4,000 American citizens contributed to the project and are welcome to visit anytime.
Bye-bye! See you soon!
David Vives, NTD News.
On today's health segment, we look at the benefits of sunlight and its direct effect on our circadian rhythm and the mood centers in the brain. Here's Gina Marie, who brings us Strong Mind and Body.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body. I'm Gina Marie. Sleep disorders are pervasive nowadays. Approximately 1 in 3 adults suffer from mild insomnia. As stress levels rise around the world, insomnia is becoming more prevalent in adults. Monash University has conducted a new study. They found that getting enough natural sunlight each day could help to reduce insomnia and improve mood. The study included more than 400,000 participants. It was found that a lack of daytime light exposure was a risk factor for poor mood, insomnia, and depressive symptoms. This study helps to highlight the importance of getting enough sunlight to ensure the body can function optimally. When considering sleep in daylight, it's important to consider the circadian rhythm. It is a natural internal process that regulates the sleep-wake cycle. It repeats roughly every 24 hours. It can help guide the body to let it know when to sleep and when to be awake. This cycle is vital in helping the body rest and regain energy lost from being awake and performing daily activities. People tend to spend most waking hours in artificial lighting conditions. They also spend a lot of time in relatively bright nighttime light exposure. By making minor adjustments to a daily routine, some may improve their sleep, mood, and energy levels. Researchers concluded this study by noting that insufficient exposure to daytime light could be a critical factor that contributes to poor sleep outcomes and depressive disorders. They suggest simple advice for everyone. When the sun is out, get as much light as you can. Then, after it sets, keep your environment dark. This study helps to show the importance of daytime light. Researchers recommend exposure to bright lights first thing in the morning and spending time outdoors getting enough sunlight during daytime hours. Exposure to blue light should be avoided, especially at night. Bright lights at night should be turned off, screen time limited, and lights in the bedroom blocked off. By correcting your circadian rhythm, you will feel more awake during the day and more sleepy at night.
Tiger Woods doesn't know when or if he'll ever return to professional golf. The 45-year-old held his first press conference today in the Bahamas since his February car accident. Woods was driving near Los Angeles when he lost control of his SUV and hit a tree. He was hospitalized with serious leg injuries and needed surgery. Woods says he's starting to make progress again, but it's slow going.
It's hard to explain how difficult it's been. Just to be immobile for 3 months and just lay there, and I was just looking forward to just getting outside. That was a goal of mine, and especially for a person who has lived his entire life outside, that was a goal. And finally got to that point. Went transition from wheelchair to crutches to now nothing. It's been a lot of hard work.
Woods is in the Bahamas hosting the Hero World Challenge this week. The premiere of NTD Television's very first original drama series is just under a week away. NTD's Grace Coulter sits down with the cast and crew to find out more about the new show.
NTD Television is launching its first ever original drama series. The 10-episode series called A Good Cop is inspired by true events. It follows the lives of 3 NYPD officers during the Defund the Police movement. But this show is about more than just policing. I sat down with the cast and crew members to find out more.
New York will descend into the anarchy of the 70s if we're not careful. The last thing we need is to defund the police.
My name is Cliff Labruto, and I'm playing Captain Frankie Romano
in this TV series, A Good Cop?
I am Taylor Curran. I play Elizabeth Fox. Elizabeth Fox is an abolitionist turned rookie cop, which creates a really cool dichotomy.
I think you'd make a good cop. No, I would not.
I just applied to join the NYPD.
This is betrayal.
My name is Ignacio Matinya, and I play the character Jalen Daniels on the television series A Good Cop. Jalen is a straight-edge, honest guy that can't be bought. He's a police officer with integrity, with a strong moral compass, and throughout the series, the foundations for all of his beliefs that make him that great trophy cop are tested.
So without going into any spoilers, could you tell us a bit more about the plot and what the viewers can expect from it?
So A Good Cop, we're going to delve into corruption. Corruption is going to be a big part of it. Themes of police have all this authority. Who watches the police? Who polices the police is one of the themes running through the show. And various levels of hierarchy of the government and how the police interact with it, how civilians interact with it. And what happens when, or if, people in power start to abuse that power? What are the checks that are there to control that?
Say you come across hard evidence that would be catastrophic to some really powerful people, and now they're threatening you. What would you do? I make a discovery that is so incredible. It's so outlandish that, I mean, it affects emotionally the police that are working on it. And they become very motivated because of the content of this discovery to do things that and go places that they wouldn't ordinarily go.
So what sort of themes and values can viewers expect to see when watching this series?
A Good Cop explores the themes of right and wrong, justice. It really tries to not tell you what to think about it, but have these characters that are part of the storyline go through different situations that test them and make them have to make difficult decisions. And that's really how you discover what is a good cop or a good person, is what kind of choices do they make when they're tested.
A good cop is actually a question mark. It's not an exclamation point. It's not like a yes, we did it. It's what does that mean? What does that mean to you? Does that feel like a fantasy? Do you feel protected? And how do you feel watching something like this? It's a conversation starter.
I think A Good Cop will force people to step outside of their comfort zone and test out a point of view that they're not used to necessarily believing in. You know, like I always say, there's three sides of a story. There's your side, there's my side, and then somewhere in the middle there's the truth. And I think what this show does is we try to step inside that middle area and find the truth and present it to the audience in a way where they can really understand and resonate with the characters.
Anything to say about firearms there, Miss Corruption?
No. The first episode of A Good Cop airs on Sunday, the 5th of December at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to tune in.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.